part of maturing as a Christian is recognizing, hey, that's not me thinking. That's actually spirit. As a result, I'll rebuke him and cast him out. So we see these men of God, they're supposed to be, experiencing fear. So we know rebellion was afoot, and we studied that in 1 Samuel 15. Now let's keep looking at the other things that this brings in. If you go down to verse 55 and 58, you see something very interesting here in 1 Samuel 15. And we're going to just hop around different things, but different things I want to point out to you. Now, this is after David has conquered Goliath, a great victory. And there's a question here in verse 55 that if you've read 1 Samuel 16 should cause you to pause and say, wait a minute, that's strange. So let's read what it says. It says, and when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said unto Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, as I so liveth, O king, I cannot tell. Now, that may not seem to be important. But in 1 Samuel 16, let's go back there. Let's look at, starting around verse 17. You recall, Saul has now been visited by the evil spirit, and his servants come up with this idea that if a man who was anointed plays for you, then the evil spirit will leave. So, and they told him there's a man who can do it, the son of Jesse, David. So he says, it's verse 17 of 1 Samuel 16, and Saul said unto his servants, provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me. Then answered one of the servants and said, behold, I have seen a son of Jesse the Bethlehemite, that is cunning in playing, and a mighty valiant man, and a man of war, and prudent in matters, and a comely person, and the Lord is with him. Wherefore Saul sent messengers unto Jesse, and said, send me David thy son, which is with the sheep. And Jesse took an ass laden with bread and bottles of wine, and a kid, and sent him to David his son unto Saul. And David came to Saul, and stood before him, and he loved him greatly, and he became his armor-bearer. And Saul sent to Jesse, saying, let David, I pray thee, stand before me, for he hath found favor in my sight. Now, go back to chapter 17. Saul loves David. David has found favor in his sight. And he knows who David's father is. Because he said to Jesse, send him to me. But here we are, a few days later, we don't know what the time frame is. And it seems that Saul has forgotten who David is. Because that's what his question is in verse 55. Who? He says to Abner, whose son is this youth? Well, Saul, don't you know that already? Jesse. This is the same David. So why is Saul being forgetful here? What's going on?
The confusion.
Confusion. Specifically, once rebellion sets in, the spirit of fear sets in, and also the spirit of confusion sets in. So that's what we're seeing here. Abner is probably saying, hey, what you mean whose son is this? The same harp player. What's going on? But he doesn't do that, of course. He just does what the king tells him to do. But it should cause us, as we study, to say, something's wrong with this. You know who this is. As a matter of fact, before he went to war, you tried to put your armor on. Why are you so forgetful now? Spirit of confusion. So what you see when the spirit of confusion is present, that's its name, by the way, its manifestation is anything that confuses. But the person, of course, doesn't think they're confused. That's the worst part. And when I was attacked by this spirit for many years and didn't know it, I didn't think I was confused. I thought I was very, very logical. And I'll tell you that too. I'm one of the most logical people you know. But my thinking was actually leading to things not of God. So if I'm trying to mix not of God with God, I have confusion. But in my mind, I was looking to have confused thinking. You see that? So when the Lord first told me that's the name of the Spirit, I said, well, that can't be the name of the Spirit. I'm a logical thinker. The issue was I was mixing things of the devil with things of God. So the result has to be confused, but you can't do that. You understand that? So the person is not to think they're confused. Let's make that right. You can't go have a conversation about confusion with the person, but you will see it in that they'll have bouts of forgetfulness. They'll have bouts of making a decision and you're saying, but you said, yesterday you said do this. Why you say do this today? And they'll, of course, chalk it up to whatever. So when confusion is present, the people around the person know it, but they usually ignore it. Okay? They usually ignore it. So spirit of confusion is going to be there. Amen. Spirit of confusion, its main job is to cause you to doubt the Word of God. His job is to cause you to doubt the Word of God, which is separate from the spirit of unbelief. His job is to cause you just not to believe the Word of God. Spirit of confusion is there to cause you to doubt the Word of God. And the only reason you would doubt it is there's some other supposed truth that is telling you. And if you start listening to the other truth, well, then you can't believe the truth, the Word of God. So you're confused. Okay? So that's all we're going to do. We're just point these things out that start manifesting in King Saul